Millionaire CEO shocked to discover Black Janitor is the company's true owner. The polished floors gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, reflecting Denise Carter's steady hands as she swept the hallways of Crestwell Enterprises. The building rose like a glass giant in downtown Chicago, shiny and cold, hiding secrets darker than the night outside. No one noticed her, just a black janitor pushing a worn-out mop. But Denise was anything but ordinary. Once, her name was on every boardroom table, co-founder of this empire alongside her late husband, Robert Carter, the original CEO whose sudden death left a void wrapped in mystery. Now she drifted invisibly through these marble corridors, swallowed by silence and shadows. Each sweep of that mop was a battle, stinging with betrayal and memories sharp enough to cut glass. The city lights flickered on, one by one, casting long shadows, as if the building itself was whispering. Whispers of Curtis Banning, his greedy fingerprints smear. Denise moved with purpose. Beneath her janitor's cart lay a collection of files. Emails saved on a tiny flash drive, proof that could shatter Curtis's deceit. Fingers trembling, heart hammering against ribs like a warning drum, she slipped through the labyrinth of luxury offices. The cold, expensive air smelled of power and lies. Then the sudden sound. Heels clicking sharply down the hall. Wexler, the new CEO. Yet inside her burned the fury of a rightful owner, ready to ignite. The dual life crushed her chest in tight knots. Invisible worker sweeping dirt away, and rightful queen ready to reclaim her crown. Minutes later, standing just outside the boardroom, her hands clutching the evidence, she prepared to step out of the shadows, to show the room and those smug executives who truly held the power. But then a chill ran down her spine. The atmosphere shifted, a subtle change in the air that told her this wasn't just about stolen company secrets anymore. Denise's breath hitched, eyes darting around the dimly lit corridor. Beneath the lies, a darker web was pulling tight, a deeper conspiracy that could end more than her struggle for justice. Somewhere in this glass fortress, enemies waited, watching, ready to strike. Her heart beat louder than ever. The stakes had never been higher. What was hiding behind the polished doors? And could Denise escape the shadows before it swallowed her whole? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And while you're there, drop a powerful like. It really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Denise felt the air thicken, suffocating her resolve. She opened her mouth to step into the boardroom, but the oppressive silence knocked the breath from her lungs. Then, without warning, the door swung open, spilling blinding light and a heated discussion into the shadowy corridor. The familiar voices of her former colleagues buzzed like a swarm of gnats. "We need to deal with it now!" Wexler's voice sliced through the tension, coarse and harsh. "If she has the evidence, we're finished! She's not just a janitor, she's a problem!" Denise faltered, her heart racing as she pressed her back against the cold wall. They were wrong. She was not just a problem. She was a ticking time bomb, ready to expose the truth. Footsteps echoed from inside the room, growing louder as hands gestured dramatically. But then a voice emerged that made her skin crawl. "We'll handle it like we always do. Just eliminate the threat." It was Curtis Banning, the man who had woven betrayal into her life with a silver thread. Denise's pulse quickened, urgency clawing at her. Eliminate? The word hung heavy in the air. She stood frozen, instinct clawing at her throat, dismayed by the chilling possibility that it wasn't just her reputation at stake, but her very life. Then, as if the universe had conspired against her, a loud crash erupted from the opposite end of the corridor. An abandoned cleaning cart falling over, mops splattering across the floor, creating a frantic cacophony. Denise's heart pounded. It was the distraction she needed. She slipped through the door, feeling the steel of the moment grip her. Inside, Wexler and Curtis spun around, expressions shifting from anger to surprise. "What are you doing here, Denise?" Wexler began, but her clear green eyes locked onto Curtis's steely gaze. "Where's the file, Curtis?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the turmoil swirling within. "Where's the evidence of your failure?" Before he could respond, a hand shot up from between the two executives. "She's right, Wexler. You need to listen." It was Leela, the reserved HR director, stepping out of the shadows like a ghost of her former self. Her voice quavered, but urgency burned behind her eyes. Denise blinked, confusion flooding her senses. "What do you mean?" "Denise, I wasn't going to say anything, but..." Lila's words stumbled out, each syllable heavy with impending doom. "You're not the only one linked to the real ownership of Crestwell Enterprises." Silence engulfed the room. Denise's heart dropped, a fragile thread of hope woven tightly with doubt. "What are you talking about?" Lila took a breath, her hands shaking. "Your late husband. He didn't just build this company. He had a hidden partnership. He made legal ties." Denise felt the ground shift beneath her as whispers erupted from Wexler and Curtis, both men exchanging panicked glances. "Your husband's connection to my family." "What?" Denise's voice was a whisper, but struck like thunder in the stunned air. "Are you saying he..." "Yes, Denise," Lila said, inching closer, her eyes pleading. "Your husband was not just a founder. He was part of operations that essentially made me a co-owner, hidden in the shadows, until now." The reality crashed down on her like a tidal wave. Lila was connected to everything. The conspiracy wasn't merely about betrayal. It was familial, an insidious entanglement. Denise felt her legs tremble. She stood at the precipice of a revelation that threatened to upend every truth she thought she knew about her life, her husband, and this company. Curtis's face contorted with rage, though fear flickered beneath the surface. You're lying. The old without warning. A loud crash reverberated through the hall, and gunfire erupted from somewhere deeper in the building. Startled, Denise's eyes widened in horror. Not only was she unearthing a web of deceit, they were under direct threat. "Run," Lila screamed, urgency cutting through all other thoughts. As they stumbled back toward the door, a visceral understanding began to bloom in Denise's chest. The game had changed entirely. What was hidden would soon explode into the open, and she was caught in the crossfire of enemies she never expected. What lay ahead was uncertain, but she had no choice. The truth was a double-edged sword, and now it bore her name. Denise felt time fracture as Lila's warning echoed in her mind. Gunfire erupted, its jagged sound splintering the air. But there was no time to process the chaos. She seized Lila's wrist, pulling her toward the door, while Curtis and Wexler scrambled, expressions wavering between shock and panic. Out of nowhere, the faint cacophony of voices rose outside the room, a flood of footsteps heralding a rush of reinforcements. "Where do we go?" Lila gasped, her eyes darting around frantically. Denise's mind raced. "The stairwell," she whispered, scanning for the emergency exit sign. But as they made their way, she caught a glimpse of Curtis's face, twisted with hatred. "Just eliminate the threat." Those words echoed again, each syllable engraved in her psyche like a brand. Suddenly, in an instant that felt like eternity, the lights flickered, then went out, plunging them into thick darkness. "Denise!" Lila's voice was now laced with terror, echoing in the pitch-black room. The few shards of light from the hallway revealed faces around them. The urgency thickened, and with it, an acidic fear swelled in Denise's chest. She reached out, grabbing Lila tightly, desperate to anchor them both in the swell of chaos. "Stay close," she whispered fiercely, feeling a surge of protectiveness. But before they could move, an unexpected presence loomed behind them. Someone breathing heavily, wrestling with the darkness. They turned, hearts clashing like cymbals, and there stood a shadow. A large figure emerged, its outline jagged against the dim light. None other than Gregory, Denise's former right-hand man. "Gregory?" Denise's voice emerged in a hoarse whisper as confusion fluttered within her. His familiar face illuminated briefly as he stepped forward, eyes wide but wild. "Denise, Lila, we need to go now." He ushered them frantically, weariness etched into his brow. "There's a chance to escape." "Why are you here?" Denise demanded, brows knitting in suspicion. "Did you know what was happening?" I wanted to warn you," Gregory stammered. But before he could continue, a loud crash echoed behind them, closer this time. A menacing laughter followed, chilling them to the bone. Curtis's voice drifted through the darkness, low and taunting. "You think you can run? You don't see the bigger..." Denise pressed, her patience fraying. Curtis stepped into view, emboldened in the shadows. "All these years, you thought you played the game, but I'm the one holding the cards, Denise. You and your husband were pawns in a much larger scheme. "What are you talking about?" Leela shouted, eyes desperate. "Your late husband didn't just make a partnership. He engineered a trap." His voice coolly dissected their resolve. "He and my family conspired, not just for power, but to eliminate those they deemed unworthy." Denise's breath caught, a cold wave washing over her as memories cascaded back. Every whispered conversation, every late-night meeting, betrayal knotted around her like chains. What are you implying?" Gregory's face paled, realizing the implications. "This isn't just about ownership. Your husband, Robert, wasn't protecting the company. He imprisoned it." Silence stretched taut, a moment suspended in horror. Then the piercing truth hit like a thunderclap. "You're saying he's been manipulating us?" Curtis leaned in, his grin a sinister curve in the dark. "Oh, you have no idea. The real secret doesn't lie in the contracts." Betrayal blasted through as a shattering realization dawned. Leela's connection to her husband ran deeper than she knew. "You're part of this too?" Denise gasped, the walls of her world crumbling. But before Leela could respond, gunfire erupted once more, sending Denise tumbling against Gregory. The chaotic escape shifted into a nightmarish struggle. The truth was alive now, a living entity that clawed at them amidst bullets and shadows. In that instant, Denise knew they were not just running from danger. They were ensnared in a deadly game of deception. "Move!" Gregory shouted, propelling them toward the exit. But Denise felt the weight of the truth gnaw at her mind. What could they trust? Who had truly betrayed whom? The air crackled with tension, and as she dashed for the door, a familiar resolve ignited within her. This wasn't an end. It was a beginning. The question loomed, dark and heavy. What was the cost of liberation? The answer waited in the shadows, and Denise was ready to face it. Denise's heart raced as they barreled toward the exit, the darkness closing around them like a suffocating shroud. The cacophony roared, the echoes of gunfire still ricocheting in her ears, as she wrestled with the mind-numbing revelations that danced in the shadows. Fear thrummed in her veins. They were not just running for their lives. They were ensnared in a web of betrayal, thicker than she'd ever imagined. "Keep going. We can't stop," Gregory urged, his voice urgent but strained. Lila clung to Denise's arm, eyes wide with terror, and every instinct screamed at Denise to flee. But the truth, that jagged knife of uncertainty lodged deep in her heart, overwhelmed her. She couldn't trust anyone, not even. As they reached the stairwell, shoving open the door, a blinding light cut through the darkness. For an instant, it revealed fleeting shadows, figures rushing outside, the sound of chaos swelling. They were not alone. But just as Denise stepped through, a sudden, unexpected presence bolted into view, silhouetted against the bright exit. "Stop right there!" A voice rang out, authoritative and chilling. It was Inspector Mallory, the very law enforcement figure Denise had consulted about the company's affairs when whispers of corruption had first emerged. But she hadn't expected him here. You're making a grave mistake. Shock coursed through Denise. Mallory? What are you doing here? The realization hit her full force. He knew something. The moment stretched taut, filled with suspicion and dread. The inspector's expression twisted into a smirk, a darkness flickering beneath the surface. I'm here to clean up the mess you all made, starting with the two of you. He pointed earnestly toward Lila and Gregory, his gun glinting ominously. Lila gasped, the color draining from her face. You're not with us? Oh, but I am, Mallory continued, stepping closer, shadows playing across his face. I've been with the operation long before any of you knew. I oversaw everything, really, including Robert's little inheritance. What? Denise's voice cracked, disbelief flooding her core. You were part of this. Let's just say I was a friend of Robert's, a confidant, Mallory said, his demeanor shifting, desperation creeping into his tone. He wanted to keep the company clean, but things spiraled. I made it my business to ensure it didn't fall into the hands of people like Curtis. Then why now? Gregory demanded, bravely stepping forward. Suddenly, a fresh surge of gunfire ripped through the air, and chaos erupted around them. Screams echoed like haunting melodies. Mallory's dark eyes flickered with remorse as he turned to face the incoming threat. You don't understand. There's more at stake than you know. With that, he pressed a button on his wristwatch. In an instant, a deafening explosion erupted from down the hall, sending everyone sprawling as the walls shuddered. Dust and debris filled the air, the world spinning. Trembling, Denise struggled to find her footing as reality twisted around her. Amidst the cries and confusion, a grotesque realization dawned. You wanted to destroy it, she shouted, grasping at the truth like a lifeline. You wanted to eliminate anyone who stood against you. Mallory's face fell for a fleeting moment, but he regained his composure, anger flickering beneath the surface. You have no idea what it means to take power. Everything your husband built is corrupted. I was cleaning up. Denise felt the ground buckle beneath her, her breath hitching in disbelief. And just as she found her footing, the lights flickered back on, illuminating a figure lurking in the safety of the shadows. It was Curtis, unharmed and concealing a smirk. You think it's over? He laughed, low and menacing. We've barely started. With one last gunshot echoing through the hall, everything shifted. Lives were on the line, the boundaries of loyalty blurred, and amidst betrayal and sacrifice, Denise realized everything she once believed about her husband, her allies, even herself, was about to unravel completely. What once shone with clarity, now draped in obscurity. The truth hid within the silence of shattered trust. And the real battle had only just begun. Denise's heart raced as the remnants of the world she knew warred against the chaos unfolding before her. The gunfire still rang sharply in her ears, but now a new threat loomed. A darkness deeper than bullets and betrayal. Curtis's smirk cut through the haze like a knife, and she felt a visceral need to propel herself toward freedom. But the truth was an anchor, binding her to the madness. "Stay back," she warned, her voice trembling but fierce. The weight of the moment bore down on them as fury flickered in Mallory's eyes. Though he clutched his weapon tighter, the tension palpable. "Finish it," Curtis shouted, his urgency piercing the thick air. But before they could move, a deafening silence fell, wrapping them in an unnatural stillness. Denise's breath hitched as a new malice danced in his eyes, but poised in his stance stood a different sort of authority. "Jacob," Denise whispered, reality stretching as she pieced together memories long buried. "How could you—" "Hello, sister-in-law," he replied. A thin smile curled on his lips, revealing unearthly predilections. "Surprised to see me?" "Surprised?" Wexler scoffed, eyeing him like a rattlesnake ready to strike. "You shouldn't be here. You're supposed to be dead." Denise felt as though the ground beneath her was collapsing, unraveling the very fabric of her understanding. Robert's brother, the mythical figure wrapped in family tales, was standing right in front of her. "What are you doing, Jacob?" His gaze shifted, locking onto Curtis. "I wouldn't worry about him. You should focus on your loyalty to family instead." Lila was shivering, caught between loyalty and disbelief. "What do you mean?" She stepped closer to Denise, hands shaking violently. "The settlement was never about the company, Denise," Jacob continued, voice low and sinister. "It was about control. Brotherhood." A cold laughter escaped him, slicing through their uncertainty. "I always said Robert was too soft. He kept secrets. He kept you away. But those secrets have always belonged to my legacy." Denise felt the walls fold in, the weight of her world pressing down, memories clawing at her like phantom hands. "A legacy? This isn't about legacy. It's about murder, manipulation." In a heartbeat, he stepped closer, eyes glittering with something darker. "True power lies in knowledge. Sweetheart, your husband didn't die by accident. He was eliminated because he protected you." Every word crashed into her chest, and the horror morphing in her mind splintered further. "What do you mean?" "The truth?" Jacob laughed, the sound a discordant melody. "Robert discovered too much about my dealings. He tried to shield you from it, failed miserably. But I ensured I'd always be the one in charge. And now, with you here, all the pieces are aligned." Denise's recognition slammed into her with the ferocity of a train, her pulse racing in dread. "You orchestrated everything? You set him up? Didn't he tell you?" Jacob leaned in, whispering poison. "I'd always be waiting in the wings. This game of power has been mine long before you ever swept floors." Before the shock could fully settle, Mallory's gun steadied at Jacob. "You're not taking her anywhere." Jacob laughed again, pure menace as he lifted a hand, signaling unseen figures from the shadows, a cadre of enforcers emerging like dark whispers. "Oh, but you see, this has only just begun." The weight of impending doom settled like a thick fog. Denise's world unraveled, leaving only the bones of betrayal surrounding her. "Run!" Lila shouted, but Denise froze, enraptured by the desolation of her reality. The truth had twisted into something grotesque, and before she could conceive the ramifications, Jacob's voice sliced through like a cold blade. "And Denise, your husband didn't leave you nothing. He left you a weapon, one that now belongs to me." The heaviness of revelation charged through her. Secrets buried deep were clawing toward the surface, and as the shadows shifted around her, she realized she was the key to a game far larger than herself, and Jacob was the architect of her ruin. And in that shocking confrontation, with danger pressing from all sides, Denise understood. To confront the past, she would have to embrace the darkness within herself. The true battle between them had only just ignited. Who could she trust? Who would survive? The clock was ticking. Denise felt the weight of Jacob's words crush her. But before she could process the fallout, an overwhelming flash filled the room, blinding and electric. The thunderous crack of the explosion reverberated in her ribcage, scattering shadows like a tempest. Screams erupted as enforcers dove for cover, their faces contorting in the chaos. A dark haze enveloped them, dust swirling, and the acrid smell of burned wiring burned her nostrils. "Get out!" Leela shouted, frantic, shoving at Denise's shoulders. But the moment held them, suspended in the shock of revelation. "Denise, you need to realize," Jacob began, but Denise's focus broke, a desperate thought racing through her mind, driven by instinct. They had to leave, had to escape. She turned to shout at Gregory, her ally, her friend. But he was already flinging open the door, gesturing fiercely. Now they stumbled into the corridor, the echo of gunfire following them like a vengeful ghost. Denise's feet moved on autopilot, but her mind churned with the absurdity of Jacob's accusation. How could Robert be part of such a twisted game? How could he have kept her in the dark? A figure emerged from the dust. Mallory, his face contorted in rage, gun raised. "Stop! You're under arrest." His voice cut through the chaos, taut with authority. But before Denise could react, a flash of movement behind him caught her eye. It was Curtis, a smirk plastered across his face as he advanced. Shadowed figures trailing behind him like wolves in the night. "Goodbye, Denise," he drawled, eyes glinting with malice. "The pieces are finally falling into place." Then, everything shattered, a gunshot fired, its echo punctuating the air like a death knell. Leela screamed, and Denise spun just in time to see one of the enforcers crumple against the wall. And within that chaos, something unexpected happened. A burst of light enveloped the room, bright and blinding. But it didn't emanate from the explosion. Instead, the shadows shifted, revealing a figure standing just beyond the debris and dust. A woman, lithe and fierce, with an unmistakable presence. Enough. Her voice sliced through the mayhem, striking a chord of shock. It was Maeve, Robert's sister. Denise's pulse quickened, surprise resting through fear. But what flared next was the recognition of betrayal. I'm here to finish what Robert started. Denise's heart sank as reality contorted around her. Maeve, her sister-in-law, thought to be dead, had been alive all along, wrapped in the entanglements of lies. You? Denise gasped. Why? I am the true architect, Denise. Maeve's eyes blazed with ferocity, unyielding determination swirling in them like storms. Jacob wanted to control everything, but he failed to see the true power lies in the potential, not in the shackles of family. Robert's vision was twisted by jealousy. You were part of it all along, and now it's time to take back what's ours. The air thickened, the weight of this discovery sinking in like a boulder. Relationships she thought concrete crumbled in seconds. What did she even know of Robert's legacy? The escalation of betrayal took on new proportions. A multi-layered conspiracy lurked behind every face she thought she understood. This isn't a game, Jacob roared, fury igniting in his voice. But Maeve's fearless gaze remained fixed on Denise, imploring, yet charged with an unrelenting purpose. Denise's heart thundered as the venomous dichotomy in front of her danced. Jacob's thirst for power against Maeve's vision for reclamation. What did it mean for her? What was the true nature of her loyalty now? And then, as if fate had choreographed this chaos, Leela stepped forward, a voice trembling but resolute. I know what you did. Robert promised to protect this company, our blood ties. In that moment, a realization pulsed in the air. The truth shook at its foundations. The intertwined fates of everyone gathered, slammed against her consciousness. There was more to this brotherhood, more hidden in the folds of the past, a dark secret that could ruin them all. What have we missed? Denise demanded, noting the cracks in the brotherhood unraveling in haste. Shadows closed in, yet clarity emerged in the turmoil, threatening to engulf her. Could she stand united with Maeve? Or was Jacob rightfully reclaiming a fractured legacy? The architecture of loyalty crumbled, a realization sparking a deeper fight within her. The stakes had never been higher. The battle for ownership twisted anew, and as the echoes of gunfire blended with the chaos around them, Denise remained at the crossroads. What the truth would exact was still unwritten. Denise's heart thundered as the room swirled with tension, the weight of Maeve's presence squeezing the air tighter. Jacob's eyes sparkled with a chaotic mix of surprise and fury, the fraying threads of their familial bond unraveling in real time. You think you have power, Maeve? You're just a ghost of Robert's past, a flicker of what's come before. His laughter barked against the concrete walls, mocking the desperation filling the space. Lila's breath quickened, the reality spiraling, truth and loyalty contorting into something grotesque. We can overcome this, she urged, though her hands trembled. But Maeve stepped forward, her voice firm, slicing through the noise. You have no idea what you're up against, Jacob. Robert did protect us. The room crackled with silent anticipation, a storm brewing amid accusations and rage. Then something shattered. The blaring of sirens wailed outside. piercing the tension like a knife. Flickering lights casting ghostly shadows. "We need to leave," Gregory shouted over the chaos, urgency pounding in his voice. "No," Jacob interjected, a dangerous glint in his eye. "We fight. This is our home." "Is it really?" Denise snapped, the weight of emotions igniting her core. Ours or a facade built on lies? Her words hung in the air, each syllable heavy with implication, echoing the truths they all feared to confront. Then, without warning, something shifted. A muffled explosion echoed, followed by a tremor that rolled like an earthquake through the building's bones. The walls quaked, dust raining down like a fatal shroud, and the chaos erupted anew. A pair of flashes lit the darkness, casting eerie silhouettes around the room. Denise felt her heartbeat stall. "What was that?" she gasped. The blast had stirred something deeper within, and from the violent aftermath, a figure crawled from the shadows. Delicate, but powerful, a woman with striking blue eyes and an unwavering stance emerged. "The fires of betrayal you've all ignited need to be snuffed out," Serenity Parker declared, her voice cool and cutting, sending chills down Denise's spine. Serenity, the name flashed like lightning. "Aunt Serenity!" Maeve cried, her expression shifting from shock to recognition. "You're alive?" The air thickened with rancor as the truth unfurled like a dark bloom. "No!" Jacob's voice cracked like thunder, disbelief coloring every word. "You shouldn't be here." Serenity's gaze hardened. "And why is that? Because I'm the only one who saw the game for what it was?" Suddenly, her features contorted, revealing hallowed anger. "Now the truth is coming out," she gestured to Denise. "You're more powerful than they want you to believe." "What do you mean?" Denise stammered, heart racing with a perverse combination of fear and intrigue. "Robert once told me you were the key, the rightful heir. Not just to the company, but to what he built. The safety net you thought you were under? It's never existed." Within seconds, the emotional stakes spiked, horror seeping back into the present, connections woven through shadows tightening around them, and Denise grasped at the implications. "You're saying—" She hesitated, heart throbbing. I'm not just a janitor?" "Exactly," Serenity shouted, tension crackling in the air. "You are the true owner, and they've been lying about it for years." As the shock hit, a deafening realization struck. Jacob stepped back, shock rippling across his features, betraying the desperation he'd crafted into a facade. "No, this can't be true." The dark grip of chaos tightened, and the room echoed with the weight of shattered trust. But before anyone could process the magnitude of Serenity's words, sirens swelled outside. Led by authority, figures cloaked in uniforms emerged, a team armed with badges and guns. The division between allegiance and betrayal painted sharp contrasts, and in that stark moment, with everything swirling into confusion, Denise understood. They couldn't hide anymore. What did this truth mean for her? For Jacob and Maeve? As the shadows lurked closer, whispered secrets rattled in the corners, and Denise sensed the convergence of catastrophe. Would she rise to grasp her birthright, or crumble under the pressures of a fractured legacy still hidden in the depths? The stage was set. A battle for her very existence had begun, and the echoes of gunfire outside ignited her spirit. The real fight was just underway, and the truth was a ravenous beast, ready to consume them all. Denise's heart pounded violently against her ribs, thrumming in sync with the sirens wailing outside. Each shrill note pierced through the room, wrapping their cloistered existence in a tightening grip of dread. "Make a decision now," Gregory urged, desperation lacing his voice. He glanced between Maeve and Jacob, tension crackling like a live wire. "We can't stay." But Denise felt rooted, her veils of betrayal torn apart by Serenity's startling claim. She was the owner, the rightful heir. It should have felt like a victory, but the chill of uncertainty only deepened. What did that even mean for her? Her thoughts raced, and Maeve's distressed voice snapped her back to reality. "Denise, we need to—" The ground shook again, more violently this time. Cries of panic erupted as dust cascaded down from the ceiling, ghostly particles swirling in the dim light, an omen of calamity. Then a blinding flash kaleidoscoped through the chaos, momentarily illuminating the room with stark clarity. "Get out!" Jacob shouted, his voice a raw command. "They're coming!" Denise instinctively grabbed Lila's arm, pulling her toward the exit, but an urgent jolt of fear surged through her veins. Confusion gnawed at the edges of her mind. "What if it's a trap?" she whispered, uncertainty threading through her heart. Before anyone could respond, the door burst open, splintering against the wall. A figure tumbled in, a frail silhouette, eyes wide and wild. A familiar face, a much younger version of Serenity. Her sister, clasping a locket. "I'm sorry? I had to come!" The girl's voice, quivering with emotion, pierced the tension. "Emily?" Maeve breathed, shock rippling through her. The world tilted on its axis as they all swiveled, eyes locked onto the girl, realizing the weight of her appearance. Your parents are here, all of them! They've been watching," Emily gasped, shoving the locket toward Maeve. It's a trap, a setup. I thought I could save you." "What do you mean?" Maeve's voice steadied, but her eyes danced with dread. "Who's watching?" Before Emily could respond, the echoes of gunfire roared anew from the corridor, drowning out her words. The chaos amplified, an underground heartbeat rising from the depth of betrayal. And then it unfurled, a truth dragging those buried secrets into the light. Denise's comprehension twisted sharply. "Your parents? They're alive?" "Alive, and here to pull the strings." Anxiety bubbled in Emily's breaking words. "I overheard everything. They think you're coming into your inheritance, and they want to stop you. They're using Jacob to get to you." The words hung in the air, sharp as glass. Jacob's face paled beneath layers of anger, his carefully arranged facade fracturing. "You're lying," he spat, eyes wide and frantic. "This isn't real." "Not real?" Emily's voice transformed, simmering with a ferocity that took them all aback. "You don't know a thing. They've been grooming you since the start." Denise's breath hitched as shadows danced around her. The pieces slid into place, a master manipulation spinning through the chaos of her life. Jacob wasn't just embroiled in this. He had set the stage. But even deeper than that, the family she thought she'd lost, the legacy she thought she didn't deserve, twisted into a puppet show orchestrated by unseen hands they thought were long gone. "Wait, your parents," Lila whispered, eyes wide with an unsettling horror. They're behind this?" "Yes," Emily shouted, despair bubbling over. "You need to leave. Trust me, before it's too late." Denise's heart dropped into her stomach. The thought that her ancestors, the ghosts that had haunted her lineage, were entwined in this web of dread. The truth felt too large, engulfing her. If Jacob was a pawn in this game, who bore the mantle of orchestrating her chaos? Before she could even voice the desperate questions screaming through her mind, Jacob lunged for Emily, a shadow in desperate pursuit. "No, it ends now," he roared. In that instant, everything erupted, a cacophony of chaos surging forward, bonds of loyalty splintering in every corner of the room. Trapped in the crossfire of realities, Denise clutched Lila tightly, her gaze piercing through the fear. "Run!" she yelled, and as they turned to flee, a deafening realization pulsed through her. Family, like power, was a treacherous game, and she had just stepped into the wildest play of all. Would they survive the truth, or would it devour them whole? Denise's heart pounded violently against her ribs, the overwhelming tension electrifying the air as Emily's urgent voice echoed off the walls. The room quaked with chaos, yet within that turmoil, something primal ignited within her, a visceral need to protect those she loved. "Run!" she shouted, adrenaline surging like a tidal wave through her body. Desperate for safety, she grabbed Lila's arm, her instincts screaming to escape the tightening grip of betrayal and uncertainty. But as they turned to flee, Jacob's furious cry reached her ears, a snarl woven into the fabric of his denial. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he barked, lashing out in desperation. The chaos around them morphed into a violent storm, and for a heartbeat, the world stilled, suspended in uncertainty. Then the chaos erupted again, a cacophony of footsteps and shouting, mingling with the sirens drawing closer. Figures swarmed the corridor, every silhouette fraught with tension, shadows lunging toward. "Go! Go!" Emily cried, shoving Denise forward as Jacob's face contorted in anguish. But then, all at once, a deafening crack rang out, and the floor beneath them shuddered violently. "Look out!" Lila screamed, pushing Denise aside, just as a massive steel beam plummeted down from above, collapsing into the midst of the chaos. Dust and debris rained down, swallowing them in a thick cloud of gray. Amidst the chaos, Denise's breath caught as memories flooded back, faint whispers of love and secrets shared in the shadows. The echoes of her husband, Robert, filled her mind, entwined with confusion and fear. But then, beneath the rubble, a realization struck her like a bolt of lightning. "Wait, the locket!" she shouted, grasping Lila's hand tighter, urgency taking over her thoughts. What did it hold? Emily, what about that locket? Emily's eyes widened, a flicker of recognition igniting within her. The locket holds more than you think, Denise. It's a key, not just to your past, but to the truth about your husband. It holds the names. But the words caught in her throat as an unexpected figure emerged from the cloud of dust, a silhouette, sharp against the soft glow of the emergency lights. It was Gregory, his face obscured by soot, but unmistakable. "Denise!" he shouted, urgency twisting his voice. "You have to listen." Just as Denise turned to face him, her pulse quickening, Jacob erupted from the shadows, his rage spilling over. "You ruined this family. You think you can just waltz in and change it all?" But before anyone could react, Gregory pulled something from his pocket, a small silver key. "The truth is buried deeper than you know," he exclaimed, urgency flooding his voice. "I've seen the records. The locket isn't just sentimental. It contains access to hidden files, everything your husband collected." In that instant, chaos unraveled, and the tension cracked like glass. Jacob lunged at Gregory, fury igniting in his eyes, and as they collided, the key slipped from Gregory's grip, clattering across the floor. The room held its breath, anticipation thickening the air, as the key began to slide away, glimmering under the harsh overhead lights, revealing a hidden compartment behind the wall. Then, from that compartment, a rush of papers burst forth, sheets filled with names, addresses, and documents that linked Robert's legacy to an elaborate scheme that extended far beyond the confines of Crestwell Enterprises. "No!" Jacob's voice shattered the moment, a mixture of fury and fear. "You can't!" But it was too late. Denise's eyes widened as pieces of the puzzle fell into place. The truth, a web of interconnected conspiracies involving her family, Jacob, and the unraveling betrayal her husband had tried so desperately to shield her from, was unfolding before her. Then the unimaginable happened. As she lunged for the documents, a masked figure emerged from the shadows, hidden until now, his weapon drawn, eyes locked on Denise. "You should never have come here," he hissed, the sound dripping with venom. In that instant, everything shifted. "You." Jacob bellowed, his surprise morphing into terrifying recognition. "Brother, you've played your part, but it's time for the true heir to reclaim what should have been theirs." The masked figure taunted, the ice in his words carving jagged wounds through the room. Denise's breath quickened, the air tinged with dread as she faced the unimaginable. Who was this figure, really? What secrets lay hidden, not just within the company, but intertwined with her very identity? Time froze as the pieces filled her mind. The destinies of their twisted fates hung in the balance, teetering on the precipice. And as the masked figure stepped closer, laughter echoing from the shadows, Denise knew one thing: the truth was far more dangerous than any of them had ever realized, its consequences promising to implode the fragile structure of loyalty, love, and family ties that held them all together. The real battle for power had only just ignited, and the light of revelation cast dark, ominous shadows away. The figure chuckled, the mask hiding whatever emotions flickered beneath. You don't need to know my name. You need to understand your place in this. But Denise shook her head. No more hiding. She glanced at Leela and Gregory, who stood beside her, determination shining in their eyes. I am not a pawn in this game. You want the truth? I will find it. Just then, a loud crash echoed through the corridor, as some of the support beams crumbled from earlier chaos. The room trembled, urgency flooding in. "We don't have time!" Jacob's voice rang out, panic creeping into his tone. "This place is coming down!" Denise took a step back, her heart breaking for the family she thought was hers. "Jacob, it's not worth it," she pleaded. "Stop this! Whatever game you're playing, it doesn't need to end in bloodshed." The masked figure hesitated, eyes narrowing. In that moment, Jacob charged forward, confronting him. "You've pitted us against one another for too long." He pushed the figure back, anger boiling over. Leela grabbed Denise's hand, her grip fierce. "Let's go. We are stronger together. We can escape this madness." Denise nodded, and they surged past the chaos, grabbing what papers they could. The documents held crucial proof of their realities, evidence of Jacob's lies and Robert's legacy. Gunfire erupted outside, and the fear seared through their bodies. But they pushed through, adrenaline binding them together as they stumbled toward the exit, hearts racing. As they emerged into the chaos outside, the night sky shrouded them in darkness, but stars twinkled like hope in the distance. "We need to report everything." Then Gregory shouted, urgency in his eyes. "They can't keep running this." Denise turned back, looking at the building that had seemed both a fortress and a prison. "And we need to heal," she whispered, her voice carrying a weight of future ties. "We need to honor Robert's memory." They stepped away from the ruins of Crestwell Enterprises, the truth lifting the heavy loneliness from their shoulders. Jacob was left behind, whether seething in anger or fear. She didn't know. None of them did. But for Denise, Leela, and Gregory, the walk toward a fresh start held more power than the shadows they had just escaped. Then, as dawn broke on the horizon, Denise felt a sense of lightness, an awakening. The burdens of betrayal, long held, began to slip away. They'd face what came next, together. A flash caught her eye as they turned away, a glint, perhaps a reflection of something among the scattered papers. She stopped, heart thumping. Beneath the chaos, something glimmered with possibility. In that moment, she felt the shadows whisper again, reminding her of the truth's unpredictable nature. You must subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support and smash that like button now. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this shocking ending. And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know how this wild ride ends. Only true fans understand how vital your support is.